Oh, I need more water. Alright. It is time. Continue. Scarred, scar red. Whoa. You see what they did there? That's crazy. December, the month when even monks were busy at work. It was the culmination of the year. Perhaps due to all the put-off tasks piled up through the seasons, the month always seemed to pass by in the blink of an eye. It was a day like any other in December. Though none of them were any wiser to what the others were doing, Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro had spent the day attending to their own affairs.
Nani? これ。
What? The sunroom was often used to dine in when the weather was nice, since it overlooked the courtyard. It was a room decorated with high-quality furniture and upholstery befitting an historic Western-style mansion. The fusion of Chinese Chippendale aesthetics and traditional English Georgian elegance caused even Alko, a commoner, to think twice about doing anything unaristocratic on the grounds. Truthfully, she was sickened by the flagrant waste of money, but none of it was paid. This is going too fast, hold on. What? 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 Wait. Truthfully, she was sickened by the flagrant waste of money, but none of it was paid out of her pocket, so she could have cared less what the purchasers spent their money on. Three I need to warm up. Hold on, let me warm up. Let's see. I need to warm up my mouth. Where is that? Alright, you know what I get. Okay. Three unbelievably out-of-place offerings sat atop the lavish sunroom's table as if enshrined. In stark contrast to the room, they appeared like meals prepared by aliens.
宗十郎、これ、なんか新しい冗談。
What? Aoko's trembling fist clenched and unclenched as she questioned the one responsible for today's menu. The clock struck 9 in the evening. Tonight's executive chef nodded dutifully, eager to explain.
これはうちの会社の新製品。
Wow.
パチモン臭いが、中身は本当にパチモンだ、と木の実が言ってた。
Was this just
で
instant
も俺は
ramen?
本物よりいいと思う。そんなことより評価すべきは、社内販売なんで
40 Oh my
1個
god.
40円を切る低価格だ。すごいぞ。卵をつけても
That is a steal.
60円とか。
That's less than $1. The corner-cutting chef seemed pleased with himself. Aoko wanted to grumble that the real steal was her appetite.
そう、よかったわね。ところで、今日の夕飯はどこにあるの？
The agenda is getting even worse. Last chapter, Sojiro makes this delicious meal for Alice, and then this chapter he starts by making this for Aoko. What is going on? Chef Sojiro thought for a second or two, then clapped his hands together in realization.
青崎、そんなに食べると太るよ。
What?
つまり、これが夕飯だって言い張る気なのね、あんたは。
言い張るも何も、これ以外用意していない。
The two stood there, glaring at each other. Aoko gave off an air that said she would rather die than eat his food, while Sojiro was convinced she would capitulate eventually. He even considered chiding her for being a picky eater. As usual, the two could not see eye to eye.
いや、私は食べないからね、こんなの。
お姫様みたいなこと言うんじゃない。だいたい今日の夕食代はこれで3名様200円未満なんだぞ。
He's right. Sojiro puffed his chest out at his penny-pinching prowess. Alice alternated her gaze between the two quarreling roommates and the strange food before her, which she had also never seen before. She remained a mere bystander in all of this. How have they never seen instant ramen? Instant ramen? Okay, so this takes place in the late 80s. Instant ramen, I'm pretty sure, came out and was invented in the 60s. So what do you mean that how what? They've never had instant ramen? There's just no way. I mean, Alice is gonna try it, judging just based on what happened last chapter.
信じられない。一人60円の食事ってあんた一体いつの生まれよ。このご時世、新しくできた牛丼屋ですら贅沢に原価上げてるわよ、バカ。
青崎、1ヶ月の食費が3万円だけであんな好き勝手な食生活をしていたら、俺が君たちに殺される前に全員が飢え死ぬと思うんだ。
True. It's 3 of them now instead of 2 of them, so they have to be more efficient with their money.
確かに昨日のアリスの肉料理は素晴らしかった。グラム700円から肉は種類が変わるんだって感動した。生協の果汁 100% ジュースだってちょっと本気でバカにできるもんじゃないと反省したよ。けどあれが3日続いたらこの家はどうなってしまうんだい？
Sojiro was making perfect sense for once. Fortunately, neither Aoko nor Sojiro noticed the silent stare of disapproval coming from Alice.
その時はその時よ。それにね、昨日みたいなのはめったにないの。アリスはあんたの料理に触発されて柄にもなく頑張ったみたいだけど。
Wow. With Aoko's words, Alice closed her eyes. She might have been trying to quell her anger.
信じられない。じゃあ今までどんな生活してたんだ、青崎たちは。
Okay, I can't believe she's making a big deal about this meal when a couple of chapters ago they were just having toast with spreading for dinner, and that was what their what.
その時は
How was that
それ
dinner
ぞれ
but
で
instant
何とか
ramen
やってたわ。 飢え死に一歩手前ぐらいいい精神修行じゃない。
Her brazen response left him speechless. Though a story for another time, Sojiro remembered the warning from a certain vice president who had complained about a certain president incessantly bugging him to take her to lunch at the end of the month. But that was neither here nor there.
そんな昔のことより今のこと。前に見せたあの腕はどこに行ったのよ、宗十郎。あれを見込んで今日の夕飯を任せたっていうのに。
Out of everything, that seemed to be what ate at Aoko the most. She's jealous, that's what I'm saying. Oh wait, no, she did. I don't remember. Did Alice eat Aoko's serving last chapter? No, I'm pretty sure Sojiro brought the serving to. Yeah. Sojiro left the room with Aoko's serving, and then Alice ate the rest of hers, and that's how the chapter ended, I think. Okay, yeah, so she knows what. Yeah, okay. The stir-fried yaki udon he had prepared previously had been very well received. It had even melted away Aoko's morning grumpiness with just one bite. However, Sojiro had not seen fit to tell them that it was one of the only dishes in his limited repertoire. The fate of the wait, I mean, like, what do you mean? The fate is right here. Look, it even melted away her grumpiness with just one bite. For a bachelor, the ability to cook is as close to a superpower as one could get. 15 years into the future, it would likely become a highly desirable trait. Regardless, that misunderstanding had led Aoko and Alice to overestimate Sojiro's culinary talents. Her ire finally made sense to Sojiro.
わかった。自腹を切るから出前を取ろう。作るにしても材料がないからな。その代わり、それは回収する。
How is he giving him orders? He can't. Wait. He can't give. He's the dog. He can't give orders around here. What? It was then, after seeing Sojiro's face as he went to fetch the delivery menu, Aoko realized her misreading of him. What annoyed Aoko the most was the fact that such little effort was put into dinner. But to Sojiro, this dinner had not been about cutting corners, but rather about a meal he had legitimately wanted to try. Aoko ruminated on how it could possibly pass as food for someone raised in the mountains. And then... She's eating it, yeah. She's a changed woman after last chapter. Aoko noticed Alice standing near the table, holding one of the bowls tightly.
もうそれはいいんだってば。宗十郎に返してきちんとした出前にしましょう。
Despite Aoko's words, Alice stood her ground, firmly clutching the bowl. In fact, she seemed to be embracing it.
これ、私のだから。
Alice's faint voice drifted across the sunroom. And just like that, the night's menu had been decided by majority rule. Aoko's shoulders sank in disappointment at her lot that evening. Come to think of it, Alice was always peculiar about things she deemed hers. It was morning, and there were 10 days left in December. While the rest of the city was preparing for Christmas festivities, Sojiro headed to his part-time job. Though it looked like it could snow at any minute, the tree-lined streets were busy with foot traffic. These days were particularly merry. Students on winter break spent their days hanging out with friends while they counted down the days until the holidays. Colorful Christmas cakes lined storefronts, placed like charms to ward off evil. Huge advertisements adorned the sides of buildings. The station plaza bustled with pop-up stalls. Sojiro stepped out of the milling crowd into a phone booth. Safe from the winter wind, the inside seemed warm by comparison. The thought that it would actually be nice to have one in the mountains crossed his mind as he inserted a coin into the phone. He dialed a number from memory, his fingers punching the keys with a somewhat practiced motion. After about 5 seconds, the phone began to ring. Another 5 seconds, another ring. 10 seconds had passed. He gazed through the window at the various signs on the surrounding buildings and marveled at the sheer number of people out and about so early. The number he dialed was that of Tobimaru Tsukiji. The Tsukiji name was well known in Misaki as a distinguished land-owning family going back generations. Incidentally, their residence was located in the neighboring town of Yashirogi. A kind, elderly female voice finally replaced the ringtone. After her polite greeting, she handed over the phone to Sojo's target.
Ohayo,
What could he be calling for? He was still half asleep, or so it sounded to Sojiro.
一つ相談があるんだけど、いいか?
陽気に計らえ.
His response did not exactly inspire confidence in Sojiro, but he cut right to the chase. There was a long pause. He was hard to read from this end of the receiver.
What
did he say?
いいか、宗次郎。仲が悪けりゃ遊びに行け。機嫌を取りたきゃいいとこ見せろ。で、それが合わなきゃ早めに手を切れ。俺ができるアドバイスはそんなもんだ。
And with a piece, Tobimaru hung up. It may have been 10 in the morning to Sojiro, but after dealing with what seemed like a 6 o'clock Tobimaru, all he could do nod earnestly. Alright. He had a feeling his friend had just been trying to end the call, but deep down he knew that the advice was sound. They forgot a word there. Wow. After the phone ordeal, Sojiro finished up his shopping and returned to the mansion just before noon. He was greeted by the sight of Aoko and Alice sitting in the silent gloom. Though he was unsure of the circumstances, from the outside looking in, it seemed like the aftermath of an argument. The silence was as deafening as a blizzard, or rather, the biting cold and stinging wind of it. One might also compare the drawing room to an enormous walk-in freezer. It would not have been surprising to look up and see icicles hanging from the ceiling.
やっぱり今日もか.
He felt like a zookeeper paying to see the raccoon and penguin at each other's throats. In fact, he had seen this literally happen the other day at the zoo janitor job. And when did he get a zoo janitor job? That, like, every chapter he just has a new job. And now he glanced between them like a zookeeper trying to gauge the animal's temper. So who's the raccoon and who's the penguin? I don't know. Needless to say, the silence meant they were not fighting at this moment. Dinner served as a respite from the conflict. Sojiro was oblivious to the circumstances surrounding the quarrel, but their day-in, day-out battles against the mysterious mage was clearly taking a toll.
もっとも、アリスはいつも通りだけど。
Across from the quiet and contemplative Aoko, Alice was reading an old book in her lap, as she was accustomed to. The book seemed somehow heavier than the other ones.
ただいま。煮詰まってるな、ここんところ。
He greeted them as he took off his coat.
煮詰まるぐらい事態が進んでるならまだ面白みもあるんでしょうけどね。今のご用よ、宗十郎。
Oh?
Hmm?
Without quite knowing what Aoko was getting at, Sojiro quizzically tilted his head. He told himself not to think too hard into it, but it only made him more curious.
煮詰まってるってことはもうじき完成ってことでしょ。進展がないって意味合いなら行き詰まってると言うべきね。
Seemingly too preoccupied to scold Sojiro, Aoko waved her hand as though shooing off an insect. But Sojiro being Sojiro,
じゃあ言い直して。いや、あれから進展はあったかい？
Sojiro held his ground.
宗十郎には関係ないわ。こっちの事情に関しては不可侵だって言わなかった？
Bro is getting way too comfortable. Her response was calm but pointed. Surliness was her weapon of choice, and today she seemed determined to swing it at will.
もちろん聞いてる。ところで、お昼はまだだろ
Sojiro chose to brush off Aoko's attitude. If Aoko's weapon was surliness, Sojiro was blithen. What the fuck is that? Blitheness? Blight? Blitheness? Blitheness? Blitheness. How is it so hard to find the pronunciation of blitheness? Blitheness. Blitheness. Anyways, he wielded just enough of it to make Aoko flinch.
どうしたの今日は？何かいいことでもあったわけ？
Sojiro shook his head.
まだなんだ。じゃあ、ちょっと提案があ
What
る。
kind of proposal? He dug around in the pocket of his coat, which was now on the hanger. Aoko gave him a dubious stare, while Alice's ears perked up at his upbeat tone.
実は今日、給料日だったんだ。お金も入ったことだし、外に遊びに行こう。
He's actually just the breadwinner of this house now. Crazy. Okay, genuinely though, like, how were they getting by before Sojiro came to live with them? Like, neither of them have jobs. Like where are they getting their allowance? Like, they're just two bums with no jobs. I don't get it. He spoke with a warm smile as he removed his wallet from his coat pocket. The other two did not know what to make of it.
宗十郎。
She wanted to take exception to his bright mood, but found herself wrestling with the idea of reacting positively to it. After all, he was making a gesture of good faith and to try and make things better with what little funds he had. The thought itself was not a bad one. While there was always the chance that Alice would keep quiet until the slightest thing annoyed her, at which point she would ruin everything, Aoko wanted to accept his goodwill. However, she was not in the mood to walk around town with either of the two, nor was the timing ideal.
悪いけど今忙しいの。暇になったら思い出してあげるからしばらく我慢して。
Dang. Alice seemed to give the same response, though wordlessly. Sojiro was not about to be held back by the sullen mood.
忙しいって、ここで黙り合ってるだけじゃないか。徹夜漬けの時、気分転換は必要だって言ったのは青崎だろ。行き詰まったら回り右して戻らないとどこにも行けない。
Sojiro spoke with unusual confidence as he drew 2 tickets from his wallet and slapped them on the table. At first glance, they looked like advance tickets to a movie, but not quite. They were tickets to a famous aquarium. To get there, they would take the rapid train and subway to a city several times more modern than Misaki. It housed not only the biggest shopping mall in the prefecture, but also a multi-purpose auditorium set to open next year, designed to host international conferences and stage productions.
それと、夜はメシアンでカレーでも食べてくれ。
Insane Riz. He just asked both of them to a date. Saying that, he slapped 2 bills on the table, as if he had struck it rich. It was Sojiro's turn to make dinner tonight, after all.
じゃあそういうことで。
My god, and he just walks away. His business concluded, Sojiro returned his wallet to his coat pocket. These past 2 chapters have just been Sojiro Riz farming. It's kinda crazy. It was then that Aoko realized what Sojiro meant by be seeing you.
ちょっと待った。そういうあんたはどうするのよ。
What? Oh, I didn't even realize. I thought there were 3 tickets. I didn't know. I did not see that there were only 2.
今日はアルバイト。
Sojiro was almost too quick with his response, helping Aoko to see things for what they really were. Rather than for Sojiro's benefit, his gesture was instead an attempt to ease the tension that had built up between Aoko and Alice. Though fast, both girls would tell you it was an unnecessary gesture. Still, for him to pay this much attention to the household, if anything, gave Aoko reason to reflect on her own immaturity. But why are they beefing? They still haven't explained why they're beefing. Like, what is going on with the mage affairs right now? Aoko glanced over to the still-seated Alice. At the same time, Alice peeked up at Aoko from behind her book. They kept still, staring at each other.
私は構わないけど、今やれることは全部やってあるし。そうね。そういうことならせっかくだし。
Aoko stood up from the sofa, resigned to her decision. Sojiro watched on, a satisfied smile on his face. 20 minutes later, as Aoko and Alice were done getting ready, Aoko called out to Sojiro in the drawing room.
それじゃあ出かけてくるから、あんたもバイト。ソジロ？
What? Sojiro was crouched in front of the television, unaware that the two had entered the room.
もしかしてビデオいじってるの？
ああ、ちょうどよかった。青崎、これ。
Pausing his audio-visual struggles, Sojiro turned around. She's wearing a mini skirt in December. She's crazy. He froze in shock, forgetting what he was about to say.
私たちお言葉に甘えて出かけてくるけど、どうしたのよ一体。棚の後ろに落とし物でもしたの？
Sojiro appeared to have gone stiff. Aoko stared at him curiously. Though Alice silently nodded along with his bizarre reaction, she kept her thoughts to herself.
いや、なんかこう。
What? Still gawking, his voice stuck in his throat. He was blissfully unaware that the shock he was experiencing was the direct result of his emotional state.
それじゃわからないってば。
What's he gonna say?
まったく、落ち着いてるくせに妙に挙動不審なんだから、アリスに煙たがられても仕方ないっていうか。
Alice looked on in silence. He was not confused or in a daydream, that much he could tell, but this frozen look was by all accounts the first for Sojiro.
それで何かあったの？
ああ、いや、これなんだけど、青崎、ビデオってどう使うんだ？
Shaking his head to regain his composure, Sojiro pointed to the VCR. A VHS player sat on the shelf beneath the TV.
何？タイマー録画でもするの？
Aoko walked over and crouched next to Sojiro in front of the TV.
いや、木の実からビデオを借りたんだけど、映らない。
What could the video be? It better not be an inappropriate video.
まず、テレビの電源が入ってない。
Oh. With a click, the TV screen flickered alive.
次、チャンネルを外線に合わせて。 意外にも真っ黒。木の実くんのことだからテープ頭から録画してると思ったけど。
Wait, why is that a surprise? During this time period, videotapes were still rather expensive. Therefore, it was only natural for people to not want to waste a single second on the tape's 120-minute capacity. Oh, okay.
割と趣味には気を使う性格なのね。じゃ、早送りっと。
Alko picked the small remote up and quickly pushed the button to march forward. The VCR beeped in protest. With several clicks and thuds, there was an empty whir from within the machine.
壊してないぞ、多分。
The vast majority of people who say this are actually very prone to destroying electrical equipment, but that is a separate matter.
おまけにテープが入ってない。
As soon as the words left her lips, it all made sense.
テープ
Sojiro imagined adhesive tape, clearly confused.
宗十郎、木の実くんから何か渡されなかった？
渡されたけど、ほら、テーブルの上。
Though she should have been used to it by now, she caught herself wondering if Sojiro was being stupid deliberately.
木の実くんが何て言ったか覚えてる？
テープ貸してやるから家に帰ったらビデオを見ろと。
一番大事な言葉が抜けてたわけね。
Why didn't he just put the thing inside the thing already for him?
はあ、失望を通り越して怖くなるわ。あっさり順応しているように見えてこれだものね。
He's able to use a phone, but he's not able to use the TV. Strange. Exasperated, Aoko fetched the tape in question. It was labeled Gaku Gaku Animal Kingdom African Adventure. What the fuck is this? To Aoko, this knocked Hosuke Kinomi down a level in the ratings file she kept with the student council.
で、このテープをデッキに入れて再生すればいいの。爪は折ってないから録画ボタンだけは押さないようにね。
爪とは？
ここテープの側面にへこみがあるでしょ。これをカバーしているのが爪。これを切り取っておくともうそのテープは上書き録画できなくなるのよ。そうね、例えるなら授業のノート。大事なものだから消しゴムで消えないようにフィキサチーフをかけたっていうか、ヒューマンエラーを物理的に防止するアナログな防御法ってわけ。
She inserted the tape into the VCR and handed the remote to Sojiro. Just the small interaction used up a fair bit of Aoko's patience. Completely ignorant of Aoko's feelings, Sojiro gleefully pressed the play button.
前から危なっかしいと思ってたけど、まさかここまでとはね。時代錯誤にも程がある。あんた山で何やってたの？空手家じゃあるまいし、熊を倒す修行でもしてたとか言わないでしょうね。
Even Sojiro managed to pick up on Aoko's rude tone, and he frowned disapprovingly. He did not like that.
それはもしかして俺をバカにしてるのか？
Oh shit.
心外ね。事実バカにしてるんだけど。
Aoko answered, unapologetically. On the TV, a crocodile's yawning mouth appeared.
そんなバカな話があるもんか。なんで熊を倒すために修行しなくちゃいけないんだ。
Sojiro turned toward the TV in the huff. Perhaps because of his rare outburst, as he turned face to face with the gaping maw of the crocodile on the TV, he fell backwards in surprise. Aoko unpursed her lips upon saying this, delighted. It was relieving to see the boy disarmed.
けど青崎、 この機械ずいぶん埃が積もっているけど、掃除はしていないのか？
私はあんまり使わないし、アリスは見ないから今までほっぽってただけよ。ダメ元でトレーニング用に買ってもらったんだけど飽きちゃった。イメージでどうにかできる問題じゃなかったっていうか。
Alko shrugged at her past superficially, and Sojiro was led to believe yet another falsehood about modern life, that VCRs would go out of fashion.
それじゃあ留守番お願いね。バイト本当はないんでしょ？
How does she know? Alko walked out of the drawing room, smiling.
Oh.
Her grin was the cheap shot that left Sojiro speechless. As he scratched his cheek, he was reminded that she was not someone to be trifled with. After watching the end of the drama between her housemates, Alice made for the reception area as well. Left alone, Left alone in the room, Sojiro took his seat on the sofa. Well, it was certainly not easy making everything run smoothly around these parts. Until they came back, he could enjoy his crocodile watching in peace. They took the subway from Misaki for 6 stations. From there, they rode another 3 stops by express train. After about an hour, Aoko and Alice arrived at Arisaka Station. While Misaki was a mixture of old and new architecture, Arisaka... Why did I just... So... I don't... Like, that was... Okay. So, like... okay, never mind. I don't know why I just pronounced it like that. That came out too naturally. Anyways, Arisaka was a brand new town built in accordance with recent government ordinance. It was as though an entire town full of tall buildings sprouted up in the middle of nowhere. It was near the end of December, in the middle of winter break. Even the bustling plaza in Misaki was quiet compared to Arisaka in the evening. Whether it was the huge mall full of countless specialty stores, or the crowded multi-purpose auditorium, there really was something for everyone here. For that reason, beyond its local residents, Arisaka Station was crowded with people from far and wide.
へえ、あれが新しい演劇ホールか。県内最大のコンサートホールらしいけど、中はどうなってんだろう。なんか周りのビルより背が高くない？
They made their way to the aquarium, weaving through the crowds. Alpha might have been used to city life, but Alice was silently anxious. The people passing by must have thought that this pale girl out of place, which Alice happened to agree with.
来年夏にはビッグアーティストも来日予定。で、ピンクトゥルーデが入ってない？
Pink
ちょっと
Trudy.
これ
Oh my
日本
god.
初ライブよ、アリス。
Alko exclaimed, overcome by excitement. This kind of pop rock band was right up Alko's alley, but naturally, Alice did not seem very interested.
それよりセレモニーに予定されてるポーランド楽団の方が驚きだと思うけど、随分とお金がかかっているようね。ほんと懲りない人。
Alko cursed under her breath before hurrying them along. Underneath the construction map read, with the support of the Kuonji group. The aquarium they were looking for was on top of the What the fuck? Okay. The aquarium they were looking for was on the top floor of a massive building. Maybe it was because it was no longer a new attraction. Or perhaps it was because the first floor cinema drew the crowds. Wait, what kind of aquarium is on the top floor of a tall building? What? Wouldn't that be so much water weight, like weighing the building on from the top? Like what? What the heck? With only a few people scattered around the entrance, the atmosphere inside was very calm. It wasn't quiet, but desolate, and far removed from the hustle and bustle outside. Perhaps they were going for a museum-like mood. Work of fiction. Alice quietly caught her breath, staring in awe. She was like a child seeing the circus for the first time, her eyes wide in anticipation and wonder.
お、気に入ったみたいね。よかったよかった。
She's in awe. So like she sees all these like ploys all the time, but she's in awe by an aquarium.
宗十郎おすすめの物件は気難しいアリスさんのお眼鏡にかないましたか？
Alko found herself smiling as well. There is a certain joy in seeing Alice's wonderment.
別に屋上にある水族館が珍しいだけ。
Yeah, I do too. They never do that. According to the guide on the wall, the entrance to the aquarium was nearly as big as the Kuonji mansion's foyer. The outdoor penguin show was apparently suspended due to the starved penguin Flippy undergoing treatment for an injury. It was an unfortunate state of affairs, but one that did not stop Alice from continuing to read over the guide. Apparently, she was quite familiar with penguin shows. Then...
Eh?
No. I can't believe it. Alice quietly whimpered, as if holding back a scream.
なになに、どうしたの？
Oh no, she can't watch the penguins. Alko said, still looking at the floor plan. It was rare to see Alice getting this emotional outside of the mansion. For some reason, she was trembling. Nothing seemed terribly off about the aquarium's offerings.
ゾウガメがいない。
Wait, that's what she's mad over.
え？
話が違うわ、青子。どうしてゾウガメの展示スペースがないの？
Wouldn't that be at the zoo, not an aquarium?
どうしてって、そりゃゾウガメぐらいになった
Yeah, that's
ら
what I'm saying.
もうほとんど陸上生物だからじゃない？大きいし。
なんで？ペンギンはいるのに不公平よ。イルカだって許せないわ。
How do they get a dolphin to the top floor? What? That doesn't even make sense. It was a bitter pill for Alice to swallow. The idea that they did not have a giant tortoise despite having a dolphin had Alice's eyes hot with indignation.
ああ。
Yeah, okay, I wasn't even thinking about the animals, like, I was just thinking about all the water weight on the top of a tall building. How would you get all those animals up there? That doesn't even make sense. Maybe this game isn't very good.
ペンギンとイルカは定番なのになぜゾウガメだけ外されるのか。ちょっとした日常の落とし穴ね。
Alko said, certain something like a giant tortoise would be boring and unpopular. She was sensible enough to read the room, however, and kept her thought to herself.
アリス、こっち。チケットはあるから、そっちに並ぶことはないわよ。
Yay. A few moments after the giant tortoise fiasco, presenting the tickets they received from Sojiro, they headed toward the once popular entrance. From the entrance gate, the corridor stretched into a dark hallway completely illuminated in blue. Figures and faces became mere silhouettes in the darkness. It was no darkness born from magecraft, but a man-made area of twilight. A world of shadow and blue, the only light being from the illuminated tanks. The two witches continued walking down the artificial ocean corridor. Water tanks seemed like windows into hundreds of different worlds. Each had their own separate temperature and environment. It was as if they were snapshots of the same place at different times. Mesmerized by the refracting images of the ocean floor, the housemates' conversations grew sparse.
そういえばアリスの家ってあれだけ大きいのにプールとかないわよね。なんで？
呆れた。水槽を見て何を想像したのかは聞かないけど、必要ないものを欲しがるのはあなたの悪い癖ね、青子。
必要ないってことはないんじゃない？水遊びはこっちよりそっちの方が馴染み深いでしょうに。あ、もしかしてアリス泳げない？
泳ぎの経験ぐらいあるわ。夏は湖で何度も遊んだもの。私、大型のセントバーナードにだって負けなかったのよ。
セントバーナードってアリスさんたらもしかして息継ぎとか苦手かしら？
この世で最も聞きたくない言葉の一つね。クロールとかバタフライとか発明した人は半魚人になればいいの。
Probably half fish. Clack, clack, clack. Their pace was more delicate and solemn than a stroll along the beach. It was the sort of absent-minded chat one might hear between girls anywhere in the world. In here, the only thing to do was look at blue screens.
でも驚いた。あんなにあっさり館の留守を任せるなんて。あいつがこっそり西館に入るかもとか考えなかった？
彼、そこまで考えなしじゃないでしょ。それに
Or is he?
それに、それならそれで手間が省けてせいせいした？
そうじゃなくて。
Oh, she trusts him now. Wow.
一度交わした約束は破らないんじゃないかって。
Character development. That he was not. Aoko nodded, her long hair waving back and forth. A certain gleam of surprise in her eyes. Onward, they meandered to the next aquatic world. Clack, clack, clack.
ところで水族館は初めて？
これで2度目。昔友達と2人で行ったきりよ。
嘘？本当？
ほんと6年以上も前、まだイギリスにいた頃。
そうじゃなくて友達の方。あんた友人はいないって言ったじゃない。
昔の話よ。私たち同じ名前だったの。それが縁でよく遊んでいたけれど長続きはしなかったわ。
そっか、あっちじゃそう珍しくない名前なのね、アリスって。こっちで言うところの涼子とか花子みたいなもの？
ええ、青子とか赤子とか黒子とか白子みたいなものよ。
後半はみんな普通名詞なんですけど。
Right. To each their own, a society of names. The swirling of the waters was dizzying, much like the hectic world of humans. Their hands swung back and forth as they walked toward the next world.
そういう青子は彼をどうするつもりなの？
どうって今の一件を終わらせるまでおとなしくしてもらって、落ち着いたら忘却のルーン探してなかったことにするだけでしょ。これ以上迷惑かけられないわよ。
それは私に？
あ、うん、そうに決まってるじゃない。ところでこの魚綺麗よね。なんか泳ぎたくなってくる。アリス、来年の夏は海にでも行ってみよっか。
海ってあの海？
もちろん。夏の海って言ったら灼熱の太陽と砂浜、水平線に沈む夕日ってね。今年は行けなかったけど来年は一緒に行かない？
呆れた。でもそうね、 夏まで生きていられたのならそういうこともあるかもしれない。
Clack, clack, clack. The two girls journey to the next oceanic wonderland, mutually taking in the sights. The visitors to these winter waters had begun to leave, satisfied by their tour. The sound of their footsteps heralded their farewell. And now we're into the wayfaring sea voyage. Oh, sorry. Losing themselves in the maze-like corridors of seemingly endless exhibits, they somehow found themselves on the next floor. Aoko had heard that the aquarium was situated on the top floor, and was shocked to find out that there was yet another above it. It was likely by design that the actual top floor could only be accessed from within the aquarium. Moments of intrigue such as this are what attractions were made for.
アリス？
Turning this way and that, she found Alice had disappeared. Uh-oh. Her housemate, W typo. Her housemate had just been there, however, and Aoko took to looking for her. She found her nearby. Her white overcoat shone brightly in front of the dimly lit exhibit. What's she looking at? She was staring motionless into the water tank. Alice almost looked to be staring through it, as though distracted by something.
どうしたのアリス？気分でも悪くなった？
She spoke, hoping to snap her out of it. Alice's typically cold aura seemed to have all but left her.
珍しい魚でもいた？それ、余り物を端に追いやりましたって感じの水槽だけど。
Alice gave a non-committal response. Just ahead of her gaze was a single shadow.
わお、マンボウ。
Alice remained motionless, unresponsive to Aoko's sarcasm. She's locked in. She stood in silence, watching the poor little fish drifting listlessly in the tank where they put the fish that did not fit anywhere else here at the end of the hall. Is the fish supposed to be Sojiro? Is that why she's so locked in on it? To put it lightly, sunfish were not especially pleasant to look at. When looking at one, it begged the question of what direction evolution wanted to take it. Wait, what does a sunfish look like? Sunfish. Oh. Yeah, that's an ugly fish. Yeah. Well, at least it's not a blobfish. It has that. It looked like it swam using rudder-like fins on its top and bottom, but lacked the grace of other fish. To Aoko, its eyes, body, and strange movements made it an awkward creature. But...
ねえアリス、あっちの水槽見ない？ジンベエザメの回遊とか見目麗しいわよ。
Alice unmoved, fixated on the fish. It clumsily drifted around its tank, occasionally bumping into the glass as it turned. The way it's like the fish is being described, like, doesn't fully sound like Sojiro though, so like, what is she thinking of when she's looking at this fish?
青子、この子、
Oh, it's her.
泳ぐのが下手だわ。
Oh. Alice extended her finger toward the glass, then retracted it, feeling childish.
ま、いっか。愛嬌だけはあるしね、マンボ。
It did not seem like Alice was going to budge. Resigning herself, Aoko stayed with Alice while she stared at the cushion-shaped fish.
へえ、 マンボウってフグ目だったんだ。何々？マンボウのメスは一度に3億個の卵を海中に放出する地上で最も多くの卵を産む脊椎動物である。なるほどね。他の魚たちにとっちゃ格好の餌になるから多く産むこと、それ自体が生存のための手段になるわけか。
Though Alco seemed taken in by the biological details of the fish, Alice couldn't have cared less. She was lost in the ebb and flow of emotions between wonder and woe with every clumsy bump of the fish into the glass. Out of nowhere, she softly spoke.
さっきの話だけど。
さっきの話って何？
When she was talking about never swimming.
彼について
Oh.
留守を任せるとかそういうの。
It seemed like Alice had returned to her normal self. There is that cold aura. Whether inside the mansion or out, that stubborn chill that pushed people away was back.
私の気が変わったわけじゃないわ。依然として彼のことはわからないもの。わからない人をどうやって信頼すればいいの？
まあね。でもじゃあどうして？
What about this fish triggered her though?
青子のことはわかるわ。あなたはいつも正しい選択をする。だから青子を信じる彼の人間性は信じてもいい。
It was true, she did not know Sojiro, nor had any intention to. But because of her trust in Aoko, she could trust in Aoko's decision to allow him to stay. It seemed Alice was challenging her own feelings. She said she could not trust someone she did not know. In other words, she wished to trust him, and in order to do so, she needed to know more about him.
口にするのはなんだから突っ込まないけどね。それより何？そんなに私のこと信頼してくれてたの？アリス？
ええ。行為はともかく信頼だけはしているわ。だって共犯者でしょ、私たち。
True, and you need to trust each other if you're gonna be that. Her white coat swayed to and fro. To and fro. To and fro. Is that an actual phrase? To and fro. Oh, it is. What the fuck? Just like that, their short excursion had come to an end. Straight ahead was the exit back to the real world. A step away from the exhibit was a step forward towards becoming better roommates.
優しい顔をしているのに傷だらけね。
So clearly scarred. So something traumatic happened in her past, I'm assuming. Like it's for sure when she's describing the fish, she's talking about herself, concerning like how she mentioned that it can't swim well. So what happened to her? One last small whisper. And with that, she bid farewell to the lonely figure in the tank. The sun set early during winter. By 4 in the afternoon, it had already fallen below the horizon. Evening seemed to arrive at the mansion earlier than in the city. So Sojiro was just watching crocodile videos all day.
なるほど。君の生態はよくわかった。
Took that long? Sojiro sat alone, sipping his warm tea in the chilly room. Wait, but it's only a 2-hour video, isn't it? Unless he had multiple tapes? So like, what? How long were they at the aquarium? Because it was an hour trip. It was probably a 2-hour round trip. So was he just he was just rewatching that same tape? He relaxed on the couch staring out the window, having had his fill of crocodiles. Once he sprawled out on the sofa, his body refused to move. Maybe he had always wanted to try it. After 3 straight hours of after three straight hours of crocodile watching, he intently pondered what it would be like to lay there for the remainder of the day like a reptile. So 3 hours of crocodile watching when the tape is 2 hours at max. Interesting. Just as he was considering the opportunity nap and opportunity nap or opportunity to nap. Just as he was considering the opportunity to nap until Aoko and Alice returned, an unnatural noise echoed through the halls of the mansion. I feel like this chapter has a lot of typos. Sluggishly, he rose from all fours to a bipedal state, as if undergoing an evolution of its own. It was a knocking sound that repeated itself regularly, with patient pauses in between. He recognized the cadence from something he'd experienced at his apartment before.
新聞の勧誘か?
Making for the foyer, Sojiro was impressed that they had hiked all the way up the hill. The knocking resounded eerily. Without a doorbell of any kind, visitors had no choice but to rap on the door using whatever they had in hand. It would take a literal iron fist to produce the din Sojiro heard now. From his position in the hall, the front door looked like an ornately built fortification. The sturdy double doors looked as though they could withstand any onslaught of blows. But now, they rattled in protest to the repeated knocking. Whoever the visitor was, they seemed determined to breach the castle gate by force if its defenders refused to sally forth. Fortunately for them, Sojiro was a sympathetic, having experience selling newspapers himself.
はい、今開けます。
Who could it be? He knew what it was like to be in those shoes, so was unsurprised by their persistence. What? It's her. I knew she would come back.
Oh.
Wait, he was terrified of her last time though. What? I don't remember why he was terrified. Like, what did she do exactly? I thought it wasn't like cheating the pachinko machine or something. I don't remember why. There stood the second surprise of the day. Sojiro was struck speechless. She was gambling. He was greeted by a young woman who had hardly looked the part of a newspaper hawker. Standing in the courtyard against a dusk-lit horizon, she appeared more at home in the European mansion than Sojiro did. She carried a dignified air, in spite of her dainty frame. While a tad shorter than Sojiro, she was tall for her sex. Her green clothing was subtly colored, yet flashy, and clearly inspired by foreign fashion. She seemed prim and proper, yet bold. Though vaguely garish, her appearance spoke of strength and confidence. Sojiro knew all too well that such a woman was not to be trifled with. Only, unlike the one he knew, this stranger appeared more friendly than intimidating. Perhaps it was her short hair that made her look approachable. Bright and brown, it stopped it's not more red than brown. That is definitely more red than brown. Bright and brown, it stopped just above the nape of her neck. Sojiro silently thought that it was a shame she hadn't grown it out. She looked at him and offered a smile. Despite... She has to be the puppeteer. No, she probably... No. She probably somehow knows that they're out of the mansion for some reason. No, that's my theory. She's the puppeteer. And, like, somehow she figured out Aoko and Alice were both not in the mansion. And, like, since the mansion is, like, the center of the field or something, she's taking the opportunity of this. Something's gonna happen. Despite seeming visibly older than him, this made her appear impish and cute. Sojiro reacted with suspicion, knowing better by now than to fall for a charming smile. At any rate, it was rude to stare.
どちら様でしょうか。
He tried not to look flustered as he greeted the visitor. To which she replied,
こんばんは。青子います？
Chat the music went silent. Something's about to happen. She smiled as she used Aoko's first name with a familiar tone.
青崎はいないんです。
Oh. Okay, maybe I was wrong. She smiled again, this time deviously upon learning of Aoko's absence.
それじゃあクオンジさんも留守なんだ。
How does she know who they are? Sojiro looked perplexed. This was the first time he had heard Alice's referred to her by her last name only, and again with the familiarity of an old friend.
そっか。夜ならともかく日中から二人で出かけるとは。
Maybe this is her sister. She has a sister, right? Oh shit.
形だけの雑居だろうと思ったけど、ちゃんとうまくいってるのね。
What if she's also... Wait, she could be the sister, but also the puppeteer. Sojiro found himself nodding in response to her smile. It was strange enough that the visitor knew both Aoko and Alice, but Sojiro found her odd as well. Likely in her early 20s, she did not appear much older than he was. She was clearly hiding something behind her nonchalant manner and bright smile.
それじゃあ帰ってくるにしても夜？
はい。終電前には帰ってくると思いますけど。
そう。ところで君誰？
Sojiro, troubled by her forwardness, wanted to ask her the same. Alas, who are you, was a question far too difficult for Sojiro.
すみません。誰かと言われてもよくわからなくて。とりあえず今は留守番してますけど、実は青崎の友人なんです。
It was a response without an ounce of persuasion to it. The young woman's face lit up at what she believed was the boy's attempt to tease her.
へえ、面白いこと言うのね、君。名前はなんて言うの？
静木宗十郎というのですが。
His shy answer made her giggle. Sojiro had no idea what he'd said that was so funny, but her laugh did not offend him. It came across as warm and affable, rather than derogatory. Then, after she finished giggling, the woman fixed him with a rather tender look.
いや、気に入ったわ。宗十郎くんだっけ？
After, with the woman fixed him with a rather like, what is with these typos going on this chapter, man? I don't get it. $20 game.
君には合わない名前だけど、それも暗示的で素敵だし。じゃあ、
This has
そ
to
う
be
いう
the
わけ
sister.
でお茶でも入れてくれない？
She's way too familiar with the mansion.
あ、いや。
And she kind of looks like Aoko as well. She slipped past him into the house, boldly striding through the entrance hall.
うわ、呆れた。ほんと以前のまんまじゃない。
Like, there's no way they mentioned that she had a sister or something just for it never to like never be used again.
せっかくこっちに持ってきたんだから、悪いところはリフォームしたものと思ったけど、何も柱の歪みまで再現しなくてもいいのにね。
The visitor cheerfully inspected the foyer. Sojiro still stood at the entrance. The clicking of her heels on the wooden floor echoed as she moved toward the drawing room.
どうしたの？こっちでしょ今は。
Holy fuck. Why are you standing there? The drawing room is this way, isn't it? She disappeared from the foyer into the drawing room, oddly familiar with the layout of the house.
青崎かアリス、どっちかの先輩かな。
Sojiro muttered to himself, walking to the drawing room. He answered to see the woman walking around the room gleefully, like someone strolling down a park boulevard. She peered around, breathing in the nostalgia, twirling with a ladylike, or rather, girlish glee.
よく見ればこのテレビって。
She stared at the television inquisitively. Perhaps she had never seen a 30-inch television before. Awkwardly for Sojiro, the cathode ray tube was still displaying images of the animal kingdom. He wished he stopped the video before he answered the door.
もし
He blurted half a question, attempting to regain his composure. There were many questions to be answered, but he first resolved to ask her name at least. The woman turned a coldly observant gaze on him. Her intimidating eyes and long, thin eyebrows bored into Sojiro through her spectacles. What? Sojiro had intended no offense, but now he felt like he had chosen his words very poorly. He apologetically clammed up. Done.
やだな、宗十郎くん。もしなんてかしこまって。私そんなおばさんに見える？
She snickered. Her disapproving glare melted into a teasing smile. Of course, that wasn't true at all. It would be more accurate to say she had the air of an older sister. Or at least, that was what Sojiro attempted to express with body language, to which she grinned smugly.
よろしい。なら、そんな他人行儀な話し方はやめましょう。つまらないし、柄じゃないわ。
Without making a sound, she took an effortless seat on the sofa, as naturally as if she belonged there. Her posture and movements exuded sophistication, and she required no words to instruct him to hurry along and make the tea. Without pressing her further, Sojiro headed to the kitchen. It seemed that the conversation would not proceed until the tea had been served. He chose the falchion he was forced to replace once before, after using it without permission. Since she was here to see Alco, he decided to serve her using Alco's Severus cup. Into the cup as blue as the ocean dust, he carefully poured the tea before returning to the drawing room. Gently, he placed the teacup on the table and faced the woman.
尋ねるのが遅れましたけど、青崎の知り合いかな。
Despite being told otherwise, Sojiro could not help but stand on ceremony. His clumsy effort to make the question sound casually only jumbled it further. The visitor's eyes narrowed again in displeasure.
その青崎っていうのをやめてくれない？なんだかくすぐったくて。青子でいいでしょ？呼び方は。
The woman kept the rest of her expression indifferent as she slowly raised the cup to take a sip. Smiling, she tolerated the tea that Alco and Alice regularly criticized as bitter and clumsily brewed. Sojiro had yet to learn that society thoughtfully awarded participation trophies to people merely for trying, regardless of the outcome.
ほら、立ってないで座って。見下ろされるのは好きじゃないんだ、私。
Sojiro tilted his head, noting a slight familiarity to her manner of speech. It was almost as if they'd met somewhere before.
俺
The sight of her sitting on the sofa began to stir forgotten memories. Uh-oh. Noticing his reaction, the woman became visibly delighted.
思い出した？私もちょっと驚いたわ。青子を訪ねに来たらいつか見た君が出迎えてくるんだから。
Uh-oh. Now that she was chuckling, Sojiro remembered everything. He had only glimpsed her for a moment, but there was no mistaking it. It had to be her, the woman smoking the long cigarette who had cleaned out the pachinko parlor. Gasp.
あの時は私もショックだったな。宗十郎くん、目が合うなりいきなり逃げ出したでしょ。そんなに私ってこわもてなのかしらって、あの日の晩は真剣に悩んだんだから。
In spite of her words, she clearly enjoyed the memory. She was right. He'd mistaken her for the murderous shadow, Aoko, in the park from the previous night and fled in mortal terror. Oh, that's why he was terrified, because she looks similar to Aoko. Yup, she's the sister. Even though it was clearly a case of mistaken identity, he could now see why he had mixed them up.
そうか雰囲気が似てるんだ
Finally, Sojiro realized who the visitor was. He chided himself for not realizing it sooner.
それじゃああなたは
He's gonna say something stupid. Just as he was about to say it, she held up her hand to interrupt him. She pointed at him like she was aiming a gun.
ごめんなさい。君の仕草がちょっと可愛くてからかいが過ぎちゃった。自己紹介が遅れたけど、私は青崎東子。
Everyone's name ends in ko.
率直に言うと、青子の実の姉ってわけね。
I can't believe this. That figured. No wonder he'd been charmed at first sight. It wasn't hard to envision Toko as a not-too-distant future version of Aoko, with her smile that imparted courage to any who glimpsed it. Only, while Aoko was earnest and diligent, Toko seemed to be shrewd and playful.
あの子が困ってるって聞いてね。いい加減忠告してあげる気で、はるばるやってきたわけなのでした。
She's not No, didn't she leave the like she was gonna be the heir to the mage family, and then it went to Aoko, right? So like she shouldn't really care about mage affairs. Aoko's sister chuckled coyly while sipping her tea. Lured by her charm, Sojiro sat on the sofa as well. He felt like he could relax a little, now that the initial shock of the unexpected guest had subsided. She went on an adventure. Doing what? So does she still follow the laws set by the association then? Because like, if that's the case, then isn't Sojiro fucked? He's about to die. Just like that, it was almost 5 in the afternoon. Aoko and Alice would be returning from their excursion soon. This was Misaki City's only subway line. Only half a year had passed since its opening, and at the end of the fairly new platform, the two girls stood. The time was 6:30 in the evening. They had been idling for around 20 minutes since returning from Arizaka, and had yet to return to street level.
青子。
There's a hint of irritation in Alice's voice.
ちょっと待って。あともう一回だけ。ね。
Aoko begged Alice, hands together, trembling from the cold. It was rare to see her act this childish. No doubt, Tobimaru would consider this behavior more strange than cute if he were here. From the end of the platform, Aoko peered into the creeping darkness to where the tracks led.
あなたの趣味変わってるわ。
Alice muttered, sitting on the bench with forbearance. Any other day, and she would have been fine heading back by herself, but today she was in a good mood and decided to humor Aoko. Knowing full well that her rare spells of positivity were about as fragile as freshly fallen snow, she hoped to go home while she was still in high spirits. Eyes closed, her placid demeanor conveyed her feelings well enough. Placid. I knew I pronounced that wrong. Thus the two of them waited on the platform alone for a subway train they had no intention of riding. The subway had recently opened for service. The people of Misaki were humble folk, and for now, few passengers were drawn to the novelty and high prices of the new train. Thanks to the low foot traffic, the platform was still as good as new. There is something primeval about a subway devoid of people. It was a picture of tranquility, free of human interference. Not just silent, but lifeless. This was a realm unmolested by living creatures. That's an interesting word choice, but okay. This was a realm unmolested by living creatures, where only speechless organisms dwelt. The harshly artificial fluorescent lighting underscored its soulful. Well, that is a crazy sentence. Jesus Christ. The harshly artificial fluorescent lighting underscored its soullessness. Wow. So wordy. It was a cave where light ended and shadows began, where riderless vessels disappeared into the dark. The platform was wedged between two tracks, like a jetty built upon the subterranean sea. In this place, far removed from the world above, Aoko waited with eyes closed for the familiar rumble. It was she who had proposed that they delay the return and rest at the platform. The reason was simple. Aoko Aozaki enjoyed the soothing sound of passing subway trains. What?
今年はもうライブハウスに行けそうもないし、これぐらいのわがままはいいでしょ?
It reminds her of live bands. Do subways sound like that? She had said to Alice, her eyes still closed. Alice had neither nodded nor objected, and so they watched 3 trains come and go. Silence fell again. Aoko waited for the next train with anticipation. Alice sat and stared at the tunnel wall patiently. I swear to God, if they're describing all of this, but they don't actually let us hear the sound of the train, I'm gonna be mad. According to the display board, the next train was due to arrive in 5 minutes. From the dark tunnel came wind and rumbling. What the? A purposely placed bounded field now surrounded the platform. There is no sign of any station personnel, and entrances and exits were few and narrow. The lack of bystanders made the field hardly necessary. Suddenly, 6 figures appeared in front of the stairs to the surface. They all shared the same face. Motionless, and with smiles like the crescent moon, they stared at Aoko and Alice.
鈍っているにも程があるわね。
Alice let out a quiet, dejected sigh.
どうかしたアリス?
どうも何も。この駅で降りたのはあなたと私だけなの。気づいていた？
そりゃあね。相変わらずここの地下鉄ってば利用客が少ないって。
Aoko trailed off, tooting in annoyance.
で、そういうアリスはいつ気がついたの?
Tut. So what tipped you off?
憂鬱なことにたった今よ。青子ばかり責められないわね。あなたと私が一つならこんなこともなかったのに。
つまらない例え話は口にしない。
They traded stoic and calm words, never moving or making eye contact. In contrast, the figures near the station began to stir. As though regressing from primates to wild beasts, they dropped prone in unison, and scrambled forth like man-sized ants. They advanced as the stream, one after another. Soon, the clattering came not just from the platform entrances, but from the subway tunnel as well. Oh my Lord Jesus Christ. At a glance, they numbered at least 30 strong. The eerie skittering multiplied, echoing off the subway walls.
信じられない。これだけの自動人形集めたらうちどころかフランスの一等地も買えるんじゃない？
With just 30? I doubt that.
ええ。もっともこんな出来じゃ買い手は見つからないでしょうけど。
なんだ、ガラクタはガラクタか。
One of the horde leapt forward in response to Aoko's insult. It was a sudden charge, like a hurtling dump truck. Alice remained still. As though expecting the attack, Aoko swung her right arm in an arc. The blue missile of light was easily repelled. Uh-oh. Her magic bullet, Snap, had little to no effect on the puppets. They scrambled over each other like frogs, heads striking and twisting in search of prey.
全部で30か。悪いけど一人でやらせてもらうわよ、アリス。この前の実力と思われたままじゃ不愉快だ。
As she spoke to Alice, who was still sitting on the bench, Aoko stepped toward the edge of the platform. Among the myriad regrets she still had from the amusement park, the House of Mirrors stung the most. She had been caught off guard in her last battle against the puppet. But today, she'd come prepared, and she had Alice as backup. Aoko ignited her magic crest. This time, she would restore her honor.
私の後ろまで下がって青子。
What?
そこにいたらあなたまで食べてしまう。
What ploy is she gonna use? All it took to stop Aoko was one raised finger.
待って、アリス、それは。
In the depths of the ocean black, the bells of night chimed out. The jetty, as if embraced by a sea god like Poseidon or Wadatsumi, became awash with white. White motes, which seemed to engulf everything.
青子のやり方じゃ後が残るでしょう。
True.
もうじき次の電車も来るし。それに。
Behind the white veil, her form blurred and stretched upward. She was like a melancholy ballerina. The figures surrounding the prima ballerina bristled in response to the strange aura. Though puppets were inhuman, mystical vessels, they had far more reason to fear Alice than they did the human Aoko. Aura. They began to flee. My god. Whoever their master was, they sensed enough danger to order a retreat. However, it was too late. The dancers were captivated by their prima, transfixed in place, as if their Achilles tendons had been severed.
それに。気分を台無しにされたのはあなただけじゃないわ。
She removed her black glove. Unlike her subdued demeanor at the mansion, Alice's aura away from home was a biting, frigid blizzard that none could approach. Her discarded gloves floated down, settling on the platform deck. The pale gaze grew even thicker. Terrified, the mass of shadows cried out for mercy.
Sa, ごっこ遊びをしましょう。
Within the nebulous mist, a dark fairy tale came to life. Inside that fog, only the macabre melody of her voice felt real. Macabre. Feast, grind, crunch. Jesus. Okay, can anyone explain why macabre is pronounced macabre when it is like ends in B-R-E instead of like B-R like A? Like where does the A sound come from in macabre? Like why is it not macabre? Hello? Is English trolling? Macabre. No, it's macabre. Look. Bruh. It ends in bruh. Even though it ends with an E, it's bruh. American. Yeah. British is macabre. What? I mean, regardless, where does the bra sound come from? Anyways. On the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling. Okay, but my point is, how does B-R-E make a bra sound? The grotesque mechanical sounds of their demise filled the air. Wasn't Alice talking about how, like, Alco makes too much of a mess? And then she did this? What the heck? Their twisted shrieks plastered the subway surfaces like indelible bloodstains. Some amorphous abomination had hastily, yet slowly enough to savor. Some amorphous abomination had hastily, yet just slowly enough to savor the taste, chewed and devoured all 30 puppets. Only a lone severed arm remained on the platform.
持ってきてたのあれ。
What'd she bring? Alco spoke sideways to Alice, making no attempt to hide her disgust. The brutal gluttony they just witnessed had a name. It was a beast of the fog. One of her three great ploys, Kickshaw. The mainstreet's rose hound, Wander Snatch. Alco's words stung, since Alice was the one harboring its true form. What? Ploys can make you transform? The three great ploys wielded terrifyingly powerful curses. While Wander Snatch had its uses in combat, Alco was not at all amused to learn that her companion had been carrying it around town all day. Without hyperbole, it was akin to going out for dinner with the buster bomb in one's pocket. But like, she has control over it, right? It's not like it could go out of control at any... Like, it can't malfunction.
まあ、次からは一言お願いね。 他のプロイならいいけど、今のやつだけは別よ。できれば洋館限定にしてほしいぐらい。
What's wrong with this one?
悪かったわ。でも最近何も食べさせてなかったから。
Wait, what happened at the park? What? Wait, so they're gonna just like they're not gonna show this? Do you think they're gonna show this in the movie? Or you're just never gonna see what the transformation looks like? Alice walked slowly toward the severed arm. Indeed, all she'd done was feed her ploy. No one had died, and no blood had been shed, since the meal was made of plastic.
青子、ちょっと。
Alice picked up the arm and beckoned Aoko over. Oh. 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 Oh.
これを見て。私たちは今まで相手を人形使いと思っていたけど、正確には違ったみたい。わかる？この人形たちは新しすぎる。この子たちが作られたのは17世紀以後よ。それはそれで信じがたいことだけど。
なんですって？
Although it sounded counterintuitive, automata typically perform better with age. How does that work? Since the 17th century, the magical concept of using puppets and mannequins had declined. Consequently, it became much harder to produce combat-effective automata. If one wanted to build an automaton these days, it was far more cost-effective to train even a low-class familiar, and it would be better constructed too. Therefore, it was common for modern puppet masters to collect parts made before the 17th century and use them in their creations. The high price of automata often came not from their antiquated combat abilities, but from the rarity of the parts used to make them. Despite that, the enemy mage controlling these puppets used them as fodder, as if they grew on trees. The only conclusion to be drawn was that their current opponent was a spoiled upstart with wealth but no territory. Or so Alice and Aoko imagined, anyway.
それともう一つ。この構造は三崎氏の結界に似ているわ。
It's her.
まるで自分たちこそがこの町を守る兵士だって主張するぐらい。
Alice presented the evidence to Aoko, who was still waving fog out of her face. The revelation stirred profound surprise and their rapid realization.
そういうことなのね。
Aoko growled, violently smashing the arm on the ground. It's made of plastic, but it just made like a glass breaking sound effect. Her face twisted with anger and a hint of fear.
惜しげもなく骨董品を出してくると思ったら、そもそも出し惜しむほどのものじゃなかったわけか。
They weren't worth keeping in reserve to begin with.
確かにあの女なら町の結界にも反応しないし、私の欠点も知ってて当然。視点の退去だって簡単にやってのけるわよね。
No. But why is she doing this? Alice quietly listened to Aoko's furious rambling, bemused.
青子、これを作ったのは。
ええ、昔から物を作ることに関しちゃずば抜けていたからね、あの人は。
Aoko glared at the severed arm. She was furious at its creator and herself for taking so long to figure it out.
でもようやく合点がいった。認めたくないけど、今回の敵は間違いなく私の姉貴。
No way.
この土地の元継承者、青崎東子、その人よ、アリス。
But I thought she voluntarily decided to not inherit it. Like she didn't want to. And that's why she gave the right to Aoko. And that's why she went on an adventure. Why does she want to reclaim it now? Unless I'm just making stuff up. And she was disowned. Which I don't remember that happening. The desolate subway platform returned to silence. Aoko's words lingering uncomfortably in the air. A short time ago, at the Kuonji estate, the videotape finished playing. The VCR had automatically stopped playback, foregoing the need to hit the stop button to avoid the static storm. What remained on screen was the reflection of Sojiro and Toko Aozaki sitting opposite each other in conversation.
秘密を知られたから先制なしの直接攻撃ね。怪獣作を考えもしないのは青子らしいけど。
It was hard to tell if she was being patronizing or indifferent. She doesn't seem all that evil. Toko Aozaki took a sip from her cup as she listened to Sojiro's story. She would have savored the anecdote about the amusement park kerfuffle, kerfuffle. I'm learning some new words. Were it not for the poor excuse for a cup of tea in her hands.
ありがとう。参考になったわ。ここしばらく青子とは顔を合わせていなかったから、あの子がどんな風に成長したかなんて想像するしかなかったし。それと一応肉親として謝っておかないとね。災難に付き合わせて悪かったわ、宗十郎くん。ほんと、あの子ったら昔から迷いってものがなかったから。
なさすぎると思います。
Sojiro was enjoying the conversation despite having to relive those events. About an hour passed by while the two of them sat in conversation, neither short on topics to discuss. Aoko was an easy topic for both of them, so the conversation centered mostly around her.
ところで、さっきから気になってることがあるんだけど、聞いていいかな？
While she kept her posture dignified, Toko's eyes shone with eager curiosity. Her elegance caused Sojiro's heart to beat a little faster.
気になってるこ
He's getting
と
bruised up.
ですか？
Despite his caution, he found himself speaking politely. She smiled affectionately, as if she found him pleasing.
ええ、一度目はダッシュで逃げられて驚いたけど、今日は違った意味で驚かされた。ね、そういうのが若い子たちの流行りなの？
はい。
Oh.
新手の超過？でもどこから見ても、ほら。
The bespectacled woman made a show of holding her tongue. On a completely unrelated note, in another decade, similar accessories would become a standard part of any visual kei artist's wardrobe.
まさかどこから見ても首輪ですよ、犬用の。
やっぱり？けどその首はすごく可愛いわ。よく似合ってるけど、自分でつけたの
？Toko stared intently, examining the strap. While he had never been very conscious of the collar till now, for some reason, Sojiro found himself blushing.
はい。つけたのは自分ですけど。
そうじゃなくて、誰からもらったの？青子？それともグオンジさん？
くれたのは青子ですね。
Toko nodded in satisfaction at Sojiro's candid response.
つまり、君は青子の持ち物なわけか。
Why their voice just changed like that? She coldly muttered. With this, the cordial atmosphere began to turn. Sojiro nodded, naturally oblivious to the edge of in her words.
何でも所有されてるそうです。
The blunt observation made Toko burst out laughing. Apparently, Toko was the quirky type of person to laugh when least appropriate. As her laugh tapered off into a giggle, she picked up on her now empty teacup.
じゃあ、これも青子のでしょ？青っていう名前にコンプレックスがあるくせに、青いものが割と好きだから。
そうですけど、おかわりしますか？二人ともまだ帰ってきそうにありませんから。
She wants to take all of Aoko's stuff, I bet.
いいえ、そろそろ帰ってくる頃よ。そういう風に仕向けたから。
Oh, she did know they were out of the house. Sojiro nodded along heedlessly. Chat, the music went silent again. Finally, the strangeness of her phrasing dawned on him, and he tilted his head in confusion.
トウコさん？
Toko sighed once.
ごめんね、宗十郎くん。メガネ外してもいいかしら。
He wondered why she would need to ask his permission, but nodded anyway.
それじゃあお言葉に甘えて。もう少しぐらいは君の反応を見ていたかったけど。
Toko touched the temple of her glasses. If one were to look closely enough, one might have noticed the scars on her slender fingers. Doesn't she wear gloves? They were small, fine scars from years of repeated cuts. Before her fingers even left the eyeglasses frames, the spectacles crumbled. It happened so fast that Sojiro barely registered it. The frame cracked into pieces, sliding down her face and into her lap.
Yaるもんだ。30体を一瞬とはね。
Uh-oh. The low voice belonged to someone entirely different. All she had done was take off her glasses, but her elegant grace had completely faded. Any semblance of warmth and kindness had disappeared. Sitting upon the sofa was a deplorable mage, her very presence darkening the room. Sojiro sat speechless. My God. Across from him was a completely changed Toko, glaring back at him menacingly. More malice and magical energy was now emanating from Toko than when Aoko had tried to kill Sojiro. She seemed titillated at the prospect of the boy's shock at her transformation. Such expectations, however, were often left unfulfilled when it came to Sojiro.
メガネ壊れましたね。
Idiot. Sojiro blurted out in surprise. Her hand stopped as she reached for a cigarette, the wind taken out of her sails.
もったいない。大丈夫ですかそれ。
いや、そんなものはいいんだ。多少視力が落ちたところで大ごとにはならないし。そもそも私がある限り、五感による情報にすら主観が入る。すべてこの世は霧の中だ。もともと目に見えるだけのものは信じていないたちでね。
Her speech had taken on a clinical tone. This too did not seem to sage Sojiro.
そうですか。それでさっきの言葉の意味ですけど。
Sojiro began forming another question, unflinchingly. Toko scowled, as if she'd found a bug in her food. After some consideration, she came to the conclusion she needed to be blunt with the boy. By some twist of fate, it was a headache she was now unknowingly shared with her sister.
意味も何もない。青子たちの帰り道に多少の障害を置いただけだ。私がここにいる間は外で足止めをするように。君は青子の持ち物だと言ったな。ならことさら丁寧に教えてやる必要もない。告白してしまうとね、宗十郎君。私が君たちの敵なんだ。
It can't be. I thought she was gonna be waifu number 3 of this visual novel. What? Though he understood her words, the clock's second hand would rotate fully twice over before anyone next spoke. They sat across from each other, eyes locked. Sojiro's shoulders tightened nervously. He had finally understood the true danger of the situation.
驚いた。
It's like he's able to understand at least that she's probably the person controlling all the puppets, right? Surely he's not that dumb. Toko asked with a grin. She was still the same woman, but without her glasses, Toko's smile was rather sinister.
あなたは青崎の姉なのに。
Her smile pierced him as he asked the obvious. Toko was no longer surprised that Sojiro would be more concerned about the safety of others than his own. In just one short hour, she had come to understand Sojiro Shizuki more better than he knew himself.
逆だよ。姉だから敵なんだ。私には青子からあらゆる権利を奪う義務がある。
But why?
物質的なものも精神的なものもその全てを踏みにじらなければ気が済まない。
Dang.
尺度として言うなら、もし青子がこの町に頼っていたのなら、まず町から壊していたぐらい。けど君のことは予想外だった。
So is she gonna kill Sojiro? Toko, her eyes closed, felt sorrow. Behind her troubled expression, there is a silent conflict.
世の平等に起こるべきか、偶然の出会いとやらに嘆くべきか。これも抑
What
止
is the
力というやつかね。
counterforce?
無垢な部外者を手にかけるのは世の常だが、この手合いにあったのは初めてだ。いや、そもそもいるなどと考えたことすらなかったな。
Toko sighed at the ceiling and stirred in her seat. She seemed to have overcome an unexpected moment of uncertainty.
君は青子の切り札には見えない。排除しておくまでもない善良かつ無能な部外者だ。
Dang.
だから放っておきたいのだけど、私の六感がこう告げているんだ。君を逃がすな。いいからさっさと済ませてしまえ。と。
More plainly put, she had made up her mind to kill him. Though Sojiro was somewhat flattered by how grossly she inflated his importance, he was struck more by how karmic irony Toko had arrived at the same conclusion as her sister. However, this was no time for idle thoughts. Sojiro readied himself to stand up from the sofa in such a way as to not draw attention to the plan so clearly written all over his face, to make a run for it.
バカ者。こういう時は半端に動くな。逃げるならさっさと逃げる。交渉するならテコでも動くな。なんというか、そんな風に動かれると、その気がなくともつい反応してしまうだろう。
Yes,
ほら、命が惜しいのなら、おとなしく固まっていなさい。
殺さないんですか？
今のところはね。私は君が気に入ったし。いや、違うな。正しくはこう。
What?
私ぐらいしか君を救ってあげられないのかも。
Maybe she is the third wife of Chat.
はい。
She looked the perplexed Sojiro straight in the eyes. Though actually brown, her eyes gleamed the piercing red, like the edge of a blade. It was at this moment that an overwhelming sense of dizziness overcame Sojiro. His mind went numb, like he couldn't tell who he was. It was like drifting into a sinister sleep from which he'd never wake. Sojiro clenched his jaw, desperate to maintain consciousness. Toko's eyes devoured him like a bottomless pit of quicksand. In that moment, it all became clear to him. It no longer mattered that she was Aoko's sister, or that she was Alice's sworn enemy. Toko Aozaki's deadly battle with the girls had become his battle. Which is why, when you find yourself feeling a special spark for a stranger met mere moments ago, that feeling is not to be trusted. Dang. Is this the message from the author to the reader? To not get, like, instantly baited? You may simply be attempting to fill a void shaped like yourself, with more emptiness. Sojiro tried to drag his body away from the heretofore unencountered sense of danger, but found that it would not respond. Toko tilted her head forward at him, eyes fixated on his.
君の思う通り、私は君と似たところがある。それとも君が私に近いのかな。何？食べ物の好き嫌い程度の類似だが、軽視することでもない。問題は、君が私より偏っているということでね。
Biased. She clearly used a different definition of the word than this one Sojiro knew. Biased. It meant that he was alone, that he was an outsider who didn't belong in this town. A sudden and seething anger eclipsed his gentle heart.
俺、一人じゃないですけど。
Sojiro shot back with all the enmity he could muster, as he faced with the witch named Toko Aozaki. If he had not, he feared he would never escape her gaze.
だろうな。だからこそ君は偏っているんだ。早くそれに気づきなさい。一番手っ取り早い解決は、それでいいんだと認めることだ。人間なんてたくましいもんでね。別に何もかも放り投げてもうまくいくものなのさ。けれど、青子にはそれは許せない。あれは他人であれ、あらゆることを許さない人間だからな。
Toko leaned over the table. She reached out, grabbed Sojiro's collar, and roughly pulled him toward her.
いや、そんなことはいいんだ。ただ純粋に、私は君が欲しいと思った。君が自分の名前すら定かではないと名乗った時にね。
自分の認識が不明で自分自身が不能と感じる。未来というものがとても自分に関わりのあることとは思えない。となれば必然心情は過去への逆行を試みる。しかし所詮ソアの前のモアのように正常な流れの前には時間旅行は押し戻されてしまう。それも私にあって君にあるものだ。ああ、なんて無様な私、なんて哀れな。
Toko trailed off mid-sentence. As she pulled Sojiro closer, her own eyes reflected in his, she noticed the merciful expression on her face. She know... Okay. Oh, I understand. Okay, never mind. Sojiro got to thinking. He held no hostility toward this woman. He bore her no grudge, harbored no desire to kill her. He was aware only of his anger and aimless compassion. He wished that he could give her the answer she wanted. But
あなたの言っていることはよくわからない。
Sojiro replied apologetically. A verbal reply to the visible question he perceived in her eyes. Toko showed no sign of disappointment. Instead, the corner of her lips turned upward in delight.
そうか。君には言葉の暗示は通じないんだな。意味深なセリフ回しで丸飲みにしてやろうとも思ったが、いや失敗。小綺麗な建前は逆効果だった。君にはむき出しの原始的な語りの方が良かったんだな。いいよ。ますます気に入った。
Her fingers dug into his throat as if she were tearing at the leather. Perhaps he could be hers if only she could rip it off. What the fuck?
少年、青子なぞより私のもとに来い。
Chat, would you say yes here?
使い道はないが保護ぐらいはしてやろう。手が空いた時なら。
What did she mean by that?
使い道はないが保護ぐらいはしてやろう。手が空いた時なら気晴らしに愛してやってもいい。
He had taken many approaches, but she seemed to have decided on this one. The lengths to which she wanted to seduce him were not lost on Sojiro, and truth be told, they were not wholly unwelcome. Even he's getting raised up, my god. But back to the matter at hand.
それはお断りします。
He didn't even hesitate. My god, what a strong-willed guy. I'm not him. Sojiro chose the direct response, as he did.
なぜ？
だってあなたのためにならない。
What? He had confidence in that, at least. Toko's overestimation of him aside, Sojiro knew for a fact that he had to escape this woman's clutches. This This teat could only be concluded by one of its two participants, Toko, or the individual she was currently infatuated with. On a hunch, the boy mustered all the conviction he could feign. She gently removed her hand from his collar and jabbed him in the chest, causing him to topple back onto the sofa.
そうか。なら仕方がない。 君も青子の大切な持ち物として考えることにしよう。
Dang. The scarred red mage quietly stood up.
青子が帰ってくる頃だから私は行くよ。青子では私には勝てないとだけ伝えておいてくれればいい。
それはいいんですけど。
Before she left the room, Toko paused to let Sojiro continue. Like a student humbly inquiring of a teacher, Sojiro pointed to the object in Toko's hands and asked,
そのカップどうするんです？
"Don't break it." Surprised, she looked down at the teacup in her right hand that she had forgotten she was holding. She hadn't even realized that she had been holding that cup the entire time.
これ？うん。せっかくだからもらっていく。
Okay, I thought she was gonna like break all the stuff, not like just steal it. The act of taking something without the owner's permission is commonly referred to as theft. However, this was more likely the typical relationship between Aoko and Toko. Share and share alike, and so forth. Sojiro nodded to show that he understood. Unsure if his nod was sincere or not, Toko smiled that gleeful grin for the second time since taking her glasses off.
やはり変わり種だね、君は。逸材かどうかは別の話だが。
For just a moment, she had returned to the affable Toko Aozaki he met before the glasses came off. Leaving him with the image of her smile, she departed the mansion. Her broken glasses remained on the drawing room table. No sooner had the eerie visitor left did Aoko and Alice return home. Despite Aoko's sour mood, she seemed as merry as ever. Despite everything that had happened and their trip having its fair share of problems, she still had fun. Whereas Alice was her usual stoic self. Her manner and not unlike a parent following behind a rampaging toddler cleaning up their mess. The scene of their return was like something out of a TV sitcom, and lost in thought, Sojiro forgot to greet them.
Sojiro, 留守中何かあった？
Yeah. Aoko asked, more so out of etiquette than curiosity, while removing her coat. Without answering, he stood up from the sofa.
そりゃ半日分の出来事はあったけど、それより寒かっただろう。お茶を入れようか？
ああ、お願い。こっちも一から作戦練り上げようってとこだから。
Sojiro was on his way to the kitchen to prepare tea even before Aoko had finished her upbeat response.
なんだろう、どこか変だ。
He was following his same tea brewing routine as always, but somehow, something did not feel the same. As though in a trance, Sojiro returned to the drawing room where they were settling down and placed the tea on the table.
これからどうするつもりなの？あ、
Did she do something to Sojiro when she was choking him?
とりあえず足で探すしかないわね。あいつ相手に守りに入るのは良くない。こっちが城壁を作ってる間に一個師団の人形をこさえかねないわ。
They conversed with each other while ignoring Sojiro's presence. Upon hearing what they said, he stood up and spoke abruptly.
探すって、トウコさんを？
Uh-oh.
それ以外誰を探すって。ちょっと、あんた今なんて言ったの？
トウコさんなんだろ、青崎たちの敵は。さっきまでここにいたよ。
He answered so casually, Aoko standing there dumbfounded. Alice stood up from the sofa and went to where the two of them were standing. Her typically kind and somber features turned reproachable.
しずきくん、その人何かしていった？
お茶を飲んでメガネを外して帰っていっただけだけど、あれ、よく思い出せないな。
What? What was once a clear memory seemed to have been scrubbed clean from his mind. Sojiro was overcome by the dizziness he had felt earlier. A sharp, dry smack echoed through the room. What snapped him out of his haze was an unexpected slap from Alice.
二度は言わないわ。他人を私の家に立ち入らせないで。
Deep within her eyes, beyond the normal cool indifference, was an intense fury. Realizing, however, that it was no ordinary anger, Sojiro understood how careless he had been.
すまない。アリスにとってここが大事な場所なのは分かってたのに。
A heavy silence followed. Both Sojiro and Alice stood there, chained to the spot by their own regret. Aoko looked on in amazement, wondering if they would stay this way all night if left alone.
姉貴を通した宗十郎も悪いけど、言ってなかったアリスも悪いでしょ。
And she literally just walked in on her own.
子供じゃないんだから、いつまでも反省してないで、もっと前向きに話をしない？
Alice hung her head and sat back down at Aoko's insistence. Sojiro stood where he was, nursing his stinging right cheek. Pain was pain, but he knew how to take a knock. More to the point, the crisp strike from Alice snapped him out of his fog, jogging his memory.
思い出した。青子じゃ私には勝てないって伝えておいてほしいって。
Wait, how did a slap knock him out? What? So why did he not remember before? What?
大した自信ね。他には？
他は基本的に世間話だったというか、ソアとかモアとかよくわからないことを口にしてたな。
Considering the small talk was mostly about Aoko and her flaws, Sojiro decided it would be better to take that part to his grave.
大河と翔河？あの人、インドにでも行ってたのかしら。ところで宗十郎、あんた、姉貴に何かされたわね。
Aoko turned to him, glaring sharply. He had nothing to be ashamed of, but he looked away guiltily anyway.
何かって何さ？
思い出せないとか言ってたでしょ。さっきまでの態度もふわふわしてたし。そうか。メガネを外したまでは覚えてたってことは、魔眼にでも見入られたか。
As quickly as she had jumped to that conclusion, Aoko went quiet again, as if the information was of little importance. But it was not enough to detract Sojiro from bringing it up again.
青崎、魔眼ってなんだ？
魔力を帯びた目のことよ。簡単なものは一時的な混乱を、上級なものは睨んだだけで相手を殺すとかね。バロールみたいな魔眼の持ち主なんて伝説だけだろうし、そもそもそんな魔眼持ちが生まれてくるなら、私たちの悩みもあっさり終わるってものだけど。
Without further context, Aoko knew her explanation was completely lost on Sojiro.
そうね。わかりやすく言うと、私の魔弾みたいなのを目から照射するようなもんよ。
目から？青崎か。
Sojiro's confusion deepened along with Aoko's frustration.
だから、あなた、一度目を閉じた後の瞳子の目を見たんでしょ？その一瞬で姉貴の魔眼に捕まったってこと。目を猫名詞に入れ替える魔術師もいるけど、姉貴はそんなことする必要はないから。あの人、生まれながらの魔眼持ちだしね。さしたる準備も栄唱もなしで、シャッターするだけで切り替え自由なの。
That's broken. Sojiro pounded his fist in understanding. Now he thought about it, he vaguely remembered her doing something exactly like that. Everything after was foggy and muddled, and her mystic eyes seemed the only logical cause.
その話は分かったけど、瞳子さんは青崎のお姉さんなんだろ？なんで姉妹で殺し合いをしてるんだ？
He knew it was not something he should ask, but he did anyway. The question was against the rules. He had no business being involved in this dispute. But they did mention that earlier that it's basically now his battle as well, though. Aoko closed her eyes to collect her thoughts. She decided it was best for all involved to at least share some background information, if only to head off further questions.
いいわ、話してあげる。姉貴に関わった以上、事情を説明しておかないと危ないし。けど、なんであれ聞き返すのはなしね。この件に関しては、私は私の事情を話すだけだから。
She stared down Sojiro until he nodded slowly in recognition. Knowing him, she knew this was confirmation enough. The conversation was becoming oddly friendly again, but Aoko sat up a little straighter as she prepared to tell this tale.
姉貴の話をするってことは、私と青崎の家の話と、何より魔術と魔法の話をしないといけない。少し遠回りになるし、多言無用な内容だけど、いずれあんたの記憶は消えるから問題ないってことで。
Aoko made sure to add that disclaimer as a condition for telling him the information in the first place.
魔術っていうのはね、宗十郎。いわば共通のルールなのよ。ルーンやカバラといった魔術系統は、それぞれの科目、世界共通のマニュアルだと思えばいい。教科書さえきちんと持っているのなら、あとは血脈次第で誰でも魔術師にはなれるわ。けど、魔法を使うのは別。魔法は魔術みたいに根源の渦から派生した写本じゃなくて、根源の渦に直接つながるものだから。この根源の渦っていうのは、宗十郎の分かるレベルに落とし込むと、まあ太陽みたいなものと考えて。遠くにあって何より初めにあるもので、それなくしては私たちは生活できないと言った。魔術っていうのはこの太陽からの恩恵を利用しただけのものよ。自然現象の模倣ないし代償が魔術の本質だから。神秘を学び実践し再現するけど、神秘そのものを作ることはできない。いえ、研究の末にたどり着くんでしょうけど、そこには大きな壁がある。で、魔法っていうのは太陽そのものを扱うこと。誰にも到達できない場所に行って何者にも真似できない奇跡を起こす。お金をかけようが時間をかけようが今の人類には到達できない技術、それが魔法。次元の壁を越えるっていうか、最後まで走ってみたら全く違うルールでできた世界があって、そのルールを学んじゃったってとこかしら。前に魔術に限界はないって言ったでしょ。あれは人知の及ぶ範囲なら限界はないって意味ね。対して魔法は限界だらけっていうか、一つのことしかできないけど、それも当然なの。だってこの宇宙の仕組みから仲間外れの一つっきりの交点なんだから。
So basically, magic just doesn't make sense.
魔術より魔法の方がすごいというのは流れ的にわかるんだけど、限界だらけなんだよな。
限界っていうか、特例、特権、越権の類ね。汎用性はないけど、誰にもできないことを可能とする時点で魔術世界にとっては万能とされる。そもそも魔法は根源の渦にたどり着いた魔術師へのご褒美みたいなもので、たとえその術者に魔法を使うだけの肉体性能がなくても、根源へのパスができただけで魔術的にはやりたい放題ってわけ。要は地球で一番のお金持ちになるってこと。
Sojiro made an appreciative sound, impressed. On the other hand, Alice looked as though she wished to make many revisions to Aoko's account. Yeah, Alice would probably know way more about this than Alko.
一番の大金持ちか。じゃあどんなにお金持ちでも一番目でない以上は魔法はもらえないんだな。
まあそういうこと。
So what, only one person in the world can use magic?
時々とんでもない角度で確信をつくわねこいつ。あんたの言う通り、同じルート同じ方法で根源にたどり着いても1番目じゃないと魔法にはたどり着けない。
Unless you're the first.
どんなに優れていても2番目以降には意味がないのよ。魔法使いが5人、いえ4人か。現存する魔法使いが4人しかいないのは一度使われたルートは閉ざされてしまうから。
Because once... has been taken by one, it's closed off to it. So how do you find a new path?
大昔はそうでもなかったって話だけどね。根源への道、真理への到達に壁を作ったのは皮肉なことに人間自身だった。
What?
未知を解明すればするほどルートが閉じていくなんて昔の魔術師たちは思いもしなかったんでしょう。でも結果はこの通り。
What?
気がついた時には後の祭りっていうか、多くの計算の
But it's
末
Saturday.
この世から魔法は消えていっちゃったわけ。
それは山と町の関係に似てると思っていいのかな。
ミクロな視点で言うなら似たようなものよ。で、つい最近まで現代の魔術師たちは残された最後の席を求めていたけど、それもちょっと前にどこぞの田舎者が横取りしちゃって椅子取りゲームはあえなく終了。あとは魔法抜きで根源にたどり着くため地味で無意味な魔術の研究を続けることになった。もともと魔法なんてのを優先してたのは一部の魔術師だけで、他の真っ当な連中はとっくに見切りをつけてたんだけどね。だって魔術師にとって最終目的は根源の渦への到達であって魔法じゃないし、そのあたりいつの間にかごっちゃになっちゃったんでしょ。卵が先か鶏が先かって話。
よし、全くわからないってことは分かったんで、そろそろ本題に入ってくれ。あ、けど一番目の人間しか魔法使いになれないのに、魔法使いは何人もいるのか
？5人いたわ。最終的に人間に残される最後の課題は5つだろうって一番初めの。
青子。
じゃあ本題ね。魔法と魔術の関係が分かったところでようやくうちの話になるんだけど、青崎の家が代々魔術師だったのは前に言ったでしょ。歴史的には浅いけど運と才能には恵まれていたのね。青崎はなんだかんだって魔法にまでたどり着いたんだから。
ちょっと待った。じゃあ青崎がその…
私はあくまで魔術師見習い。使えないし使う気もないわよ魔法なんて。私はただ青崎の家を継いだだけだもの。
So, Toko, I'm assuming, attained true magic. Aoko asserted obtusely, her voice devoid of emotion. She became a mage not to wield magic, but simply because the succession of her family magecraft was forced on her.
とにかく根源の渦にたどり着くには何代も何代も魔術を研究しなくちゃいけない。自分独自の皮を作るようなものなんだから、もちろんその過程は果てがない。よほどの天賦か典型でもない限り魔法を作るなんてできないしね。そしてもし根源にたどり着いてもふさわしい後継者がいなければ一代限りの奇跡で終わってしまう。だから魔術師は血脈を重ねて代々の魔力を時代に積み重ねていく。自分より優れた後継者を生むために。
Aoko wrapped up the explanation by remarking that it was like producing a thoroughbred. Not that Sojiro knew what a thoroughbred was to begin with, leaving him as perplexed at the end of the story as he was at the beginning.
そうやって代を重ねて魔術師は作り上げた独自の神秘、守り続けた魔術を次の世代に伝えていくの。きっと最後の最後に全ての疑問を打ち消すに足る答えがあるはずだって。でも魔術師、いえ魔法使いだってみんな悟ってるのよ。自分の代でもその次の代でもきっと最後の最後の最後まで誰もゴールにはたどり着けないって結末を。それを分かっていながら魔術を研究していくのが神秘学に取り憑かれた者の宿命だって祖父はよく口にしてた。けど私の姉はそうじゃなかったみたい。
She left, I can see why, hanging in the air. Alice had no response. The Awazaki family passing down true magic. Aoko, the reluctant successor. And Toko Awazaki, her elder sister.
本当は青崎の後継者は姉貴だった。
Yeah, but she rejected it and went on an adventure.
私もうちの家業が何であるかは教えられてきたけど実践することはなかったのよ。魔術師の家系はよっぽど裕福でもない限り基本的に一子相伝だからね。うちほんと財力的には一般家庭レベルだし。で後継者にはより魔術に適したものが選ばれるわけだけど、姉貴は確かに天才だった。けどそれは青崎の後継者にはいらない才能だった。その代わり私は心底青崎の後継者としてふさわしかったみたい。
Talent just wasn't fit for it. What?
まあそれはそれで
Wait, I
どう
thought
も
she
思わない
declined
け
it.
ど、祖父がはっきりと私にくら替えしたのが
Oh,
15
so
歳の冬の頃でさ。
Did
姉
she
貴はいき
leave
なり
because she
4
was
つ年
pissed
下
off?
で今まで魔術に関わってなかった妹に魔法の相続権利を奪われたってわけよ。
So she was.
それで
Oh. Oh, she wants what's rightfully hers, that she feels like is hers. She recalled how resentful her voice had been when she said it.
あの人がどんな思いをした
Why
か
did I think that
私
like
は
she
本人じゃない
declined
から
it?
知らないけど、
Like I swear they said that earlier in the
祖
when
父と
they
言い争
mentioned
っ
she had a
て
sister.
今まで愛用してたメガネを叩き壊して家を出て行ったのが3年と半年前。それから全く消息なしで私は姉の代わりになったの。これが私と姉貴の争う原因でしょうね。
Sojiro thought the story was tragic, but Aoko's voice had a tone of relief in it. Sojiro did not know exactly who he should feel bad for anymore.
メガネを壊したか。
そう、あの人昔はすっごく目が良かった。
Whoa.
生まれながら魔眼を持ってたって化け物だからね。けど祖父の期待に応えようとして無理して頑張った挙句視力が下がっちゃったみたい。
Aoko wrestled with the memory, not sure if she had everything down exactly right. Sojiro knew how well Aoko could hide her emotions, and this was not one of those moments.
けどあれに何の意味があったんだろう。メガネをジジイに叩きつけるぐらいならフィンの一撃でも叩き込めばよかったのに。あの人あの頃が才能のピークだったんだし、猛録したジジイなんてそれこそ一撃だったと思うんだけど。
Sojiro shook his head, disappointed at Aoka's misjudgment of the situation.
恨みつらみの話じゃない。そのメガネは大事なものだったんだ。だってそれは誰にだってわかる努力の証なんだから。それを叩きつけたんだ。痛かったんだろうな、トウコさんは。思い出を自分で壊さなくちゃいけないぐらいに。
As Sojiro spoke, neither Aoko nor Alice noticed the grief he was fighting to hold in. Or more accurately, they could not understand his point of view. After all, in a world where mages are raised to fight other mages, empathy was in short supply.
けどどうして今頃になって戻ってきたのかしら。青子の言う通り、瞳子さんならもっと早く美咲氏を奪えたのに。
そうね。そんなに土地が欲しかったのなら3年前に私を殺せば後継者に戻れたのに。世間の荒波に揉まれて気が変わったとか？
違う。青崎は本当にわからないのか。
Sojiro shook with a faint anger. His voice changed from the boy they thought they knew.
何よ。
誰だってわかる。瞳子さんは青崎が一人前になるまで待っていたんだ。自分が失ったものと同じくらい大切なものをなくさせるために。
What do you mean it's not a grudge?
そうしないとどうにもならない。そこまでしなくちゃいけないほどあの人の怒りは深かったんだ。
Damn, that's crazy that even Sojiro understood that. She's not a fully fledged mage, though. They said that she's still an apprentice mage. Sojiro gazed at them, wondering why they could not see what he could. Only he was the one that did not understand. I guess that's why Toko liked him so much, just because he probably understood her predicament and motivation. The two girls, and above all, Toko Aozaki, denied themselves the type of relationships that other normal people are allowed to experience. Toko's actions were not fueled by hatred. While there certainly was hatred behind them, the real reason was and always has been Toko's pursuit of true magic. Wait, I thought she did attain it already. What? She was an ambitious and talented mage. Her hatred was only her veneer. Thinking of her in any other way would be an insult to the elder sister who devoted her life to the study of magecraft. Oh, wait, no, I think they said that there can only be one heir, right? So like when they decided that Aoko would be the heir instead, her studies for true magic would have been stopped. That's why she was so mad. And the glasses represented her throwing away all her progress, I guess. Okay, I think I understand it now. If like that rule where like only the heir can pass down all the knowledge and stuff is the only one who can learn magic, then it makes way more sense why she's wants everything back. All of this Aoko wanted to tell Sojiro, but instead stopped herself. Even if she had, Sojiro was not a mage and could never understand, and besides, arguing with him any further would not have brought her any joy. She could not have put it into words even if she had tried. And so,
やけに姉貴の肩を持つじゃない、宗十郎。
yeah, she almost rizzed him up.
もしかして一目惚れでもした？
Mm-hmm. In her own cowardly way, Aoko dodged the subject. Now it's up to Aoko to riz him back up. True.
肩ぐらい持つ。あの人はかわいそうな人だからな。
Sojiro did not take the bait. Aoko was frustrated at his reply.
なぜ？
An icy glare replaced her smile. He did not falter, only plainly saying,
だって実の妹と争わなくちゃいけないんだろ。それはかわいそうなことじゃないのか？
This was the source of his frustration.
確かにね。
Aoko's eyes narrowed unconsciously, as if hiding from a painful truth. This guy is a poison, she thought to herself. A poison with no antidote. With his words, he was unwittingly bringing her weakness to light.
だけど私も姉貴もそれを何とも思ってないのよ。だってそれ以外に解決策はないんだから。
Sojiro looked down and frowned in defeat. And that's sad too, he muttered. The curtain of the night had already fallen. Not even an hour had passed since Toko left the estate, and Sojiro was feeling the distance between him and the girls. Aoko and Alice felt much the same way about Toko Aozaki, who seemed more elusive than the phantom.
とにかく姉貴が敵だってことは宗十郎にも分かったでしょ。ならつべこべ言わず君子危うきに近寄らずよ。まあ姉貴もあんたと会って私たちとは全くの無関係だって分かっただろうから、そっちには手を出してこないでしょうけど。
Aoko seemed absolutely certain in her assessment, as if to proclaim that Sojiro had dodged a bullet. Strangely, she was placing her trust in her enemy's sense of reason.
そうかな。そうなのかな。
I don't know about that.
そうだといいんだけどな。
I think he should mention and bring up to them that how he almost became her plaything. That would be interesting. You know, just my opinion. Anyways.
そうだから安心なさい。昔からいらないものには手を出さないんだから。
Yeah, that's wrong.
そっか。青崎がそこまで言うなら安心する。あ、いらないものって言えば、トウコさんが青崎のティーカップをもらうって、セーブルのやつ。
No.
ちょっと待って。あんたそれを黙って見てたっていうの？
そうだけど、やっぱりあれは奪っていったのか。
Sojiro nodded sagely while Aoko fumed. She wondered where his serious manner and tone had gone. Sojiro's frustrating absent-mindedness had returned.
しかもセーブルのカップって
Dang.
私の一番のお気に入り。
Aoko's fist trembled violently, but as much as she wanted to, she knew better than to plant it into Sojiro's carefree face. Not that he was even capable, but even if Sojiro did try to stop Toko, it would have gone tragically for him.
仕方ないか。そういえばあの人、よく私の持ち物を奪っていったっけ。他人のものを欲しがる癖、まだ治ってないんだ。
ん？子供の頃はみんなそうなんじゃないのか？
He wondered aloud, curiously.
そうかな。私のクレヨンとか人形とか取っても仕方ないと思うけど、どうせ粉々にしちゃうんだし。
Sojiro felt his heart jump into his mouth. The ominous foreshadowing was not lost on him. What, so does that mean she's gonna break the teacup eventually? does that mean if like Sojiro went with her, she would have broken him?
それはどういう。
だからあの人って私の持ち物を横取りしてはぶっ壊すのが趣味なのよ。苦節14年、姉貴に目をつけられて無事だったものなんて一つもないもの。
Maybe it's a good thing that he didn't go with her. But she did say she'll protect him, so maybe he would have been an exception. Listening to Aoko, Sojiro recalled his conversation with Toko. He hoped he was imagining it, but he vaguely recalled her declaring Sojiro Shizuki as someone's property.
それはちょっと難儀だな。
Sojiro's face turned grim, not unlike a detective at the scene of a crime. A scene which left no traces of evidence or clues as to how the case could be solved.
でしょ？ひどい姉貴なのよ、あの人って。
Unaware of Sojiro's turmoil, Aoko calmly sipped her tea. Sojiro watched as Aoko shrugged her shoulders before looking over to the drawing room clock. No matter how heavy the mood, time kept on ticking.
明日から大変になるね。
Muttered the undeniable victim of today's injustices. Aoko looked ready to move on from the incident, adding,
そうね。でも今はそんなことより今日の夕飯のが楽しみなんだ、私。
Wait, so what's the plan for that? Alice seemed to second that opinion with her silence. Comfortable and relaxed, neither of them seemed to have any intention of leaving the sofa to prepare food. Tonight was supposed to be his night off from work, at least until midnight. But Sojiro knew that until the clock struck midnight, he would be serving on hand and foot the two ladies of the house. For one, it would take at least another hour to prepare something to eat, and there is no way the exhausted Aoko and Alice would stand for that, so the only other option in the end was to have something delivered.
なんとトウコさんについていけばよかったかもしれないな。
Sojiro opened his wallet as he second-guessed his situation. They're actually just siphoning all his money. His eyes settled on the third and final 10,000 yen bill in his wallet. It stared back at him forlornly, reluctant to leave its home. With a heavy heart, he bid it farewell. Dang. That is chapter 9. Wow. I thought that chapter was... I don't know why. I was looking at the length for like the chapter and it was only like 2 hours, but that was almost 3 hours for me. But that was still like a pretty short chapter, all things considered. Dude, so much happened for considering the length. Because usually when like a lot of the time is taken up by like just storytelling and building up the atmosphere and setting, but there is so much like exposition and dialogue this chapter, which is why like there's so much content to it, despite its length. So definitely a big chapter. But that was chapter 9. Okay, we already saved, or did it? I don't know. I'll save over again. Oh! I ruined my save. Why did I not just click on that? Oh, whatever. I'm never gonna click on these again. Alright, it's bedtime. Not really. I got stuff to do. I keep procrastinating. I keep saying that I'm gonna watch the last 2 episodes of Cyberpunk Edge Runners, but like, it's like, you know what happens? Like, if anyone else has this problem where like you get close to the end of something you're experiencing and you're aware of it and you get very sad about it, so like you start slowing down or you just pause it altogether. Like that's what happened like kind of for me with Expedition 33, and now it's happening with Edge Runners. Like I probably haven't watched an episode in 2 weeks now, but I mean collabs tomorrow. I have to watch it. I have to finish the show. But it's kind of late now. It's 1:15. Okay, I am for sure watching the last 2 episodes after I wake up tomorrow. Or I guess later today. Yeah, but it's time.